Captain Maria Santos stared at the control panel with a frown. The numbers on the screen made no sense at all. She had been flying spaceships for 15 years, and she had never seen readings like this before. "Tom, are you seeing this?" she called to her pilot. Tom floated over from his seat. The gravity generator was acting up again, so everyone on the research ship Wanderer was floating around like balloons. He looked at the screen and scratched his head. "That can't be right," Tom said. "According to this, we're nowhere near anymore." The Wanderer was a small research ship with a crew of 4. They had been doing boring work near the closest star to Earth, looking for minerals and taking pictures of rocks. It was not exciting, but it paid the bills. Dr. James pushed off from the wall and joined them. He was the ship's scientist, and he loved everything about space. Even when things went wrong, James got excited about learning something new. "The FTL drive is acting very strange," James said. He was reading from a tablet computer. "I think it made a much bigger jump than we planned." Lisa Park, the ship's engineer, came floating down from the upper deck. Her hair was sticking up in all directions from the zero gravity. She had been trying to fix the gravity generator for 3 hours. "The drive didn't just act strange," Lisa said. "It went completely crazy. We jumped way further than the computer says is possible." Maria looked out the front window of the ship. Instead of the empty space around, she saw something that made her eyes go wide. There were ships everywhere. Huge ships. Ships so big they looked like floating cities. The ships were made of what looked like crystal or glass. They glowed with soft blue light from the inside. Maria counted at least 50 of them, and she was sure there were more hiding behind the big ones. "Well," Maria said calmly, "I don't think we're in Kansas anymore." Suddenly, the radio came to life. A voice spoke in a language none of them had ever heard. It sounded like someone was clicking their tongue and hissing at the same time. "That doesn't sound friendly," Tom said. The voice stopped speaking, and then it started again. This time the words were in English, but the voice still sounded very strange. "Unknown vessel," the voice said. "You have entered the space of the great empire. Prepare to surrender immediately, or you will be destroyed." The 4 humans looked at each other. Maria shrugged. "I guess we should answer them," she said. She pressed the button to talk on the radio. "Hello there. Sorry about dropping in without calling first. Our navigation system seems to be broken. Could you help us figure out where we are?" There was a long silence on the radio. Then the voice came back, sounding confused. Did you just apologize?" the voice asked. "Well, yes," Maria said. "It's only polite. We didn't mean to bother anyone." Another long silence. Then the voice spoke again, but this time it sounded like the speaker was talking to someone else. The humans could hear clicking and hissing in the background. After a few minutes, the voice came back. "You will move your ship to the coordinates we are sending you," the voice said. "Any attempt to escape will result in your immediate destruction." Tom looked at the navigation screen. "They want us to go to that really big ship over there," he said, pointing out the window. The biggest ship was the size of a small moon. It was shaped like a giant diamond, with smooth sides that reflected the light from nearby stars. Smaller ships flew around it like insects around a lamp. "Looks like they want to meet us," Maria said. "I hope they're friendly." Lisa laughed. "They just threatened to destroy us and you hope they're friendly." "Maybe they're just having a bad day," Maria said. "Everyone gets grumpy sometimes." The Wanderer flew slowly toward the giant ship. As they got closer, they could see that the ship's surface was covered in patterns that looked like writing. The writing glowed with the same blue light as the rest of the ship. A hole opened in the side of the big ship. It was just the right size for the Wanderer to fit through. "I guess that's our parking spot," Tom said. He flew the ship through the hole and into a huge room inside the alien ship. The room was bigger than a football stadium. The walls were covered in the same glowing patterns they had seen outside. Strange machines hung from the ceiling, and the floor was made of something that looked like black glass. As soon as they landed, the hole in the wall closed behind them. The room filled with air, and the gravity came back on. The humans felt their feet touch the floor of their ship again. "Well, at least they have gravity," Lisa said. "And air, that's thoughtful of them." Through the windows, they could see creatures walking toward their ship. The creatures were tall and thin, like giant praying mantises. They had 4 arms and 2 legs, and their skin looked like it was made of metal. Some of them carried weapons that glowed with red light. "Those are definitely not humans," James said. He was already taking notes on his tablet. "Fascinating. They seem to be, but they're walking upright like mammals." One of the creatures walked up to the ship and spoke into a device that made its voice louder. "Come out of your ship," it said in English. "You will be taken for processing." Maria stood up and stretched. "I could use a walk anyway," she said. "Being stuck in 0 gravity for 3 hours made my back stiff." She walked to the ship's door and opened it. The other 3 humans followed her outside. The alien creatures stared at them. The humans could see their large, black eyes reflecting the blue light from the walls. No one moved for a long moment. Then Maria smiled and waved. "Hi," she said cheerfully. "I'm Maria. These are my friends Tom, James, and Lisa. Thanks for letting us park here. Your ship is really beautiful." The alien in front made a noise that sounded like someone choking on water. It turned to the other aliens and started making rapid clicking sounds. James stepped forward, still writing on his tablet. "This is incredible," he said to the aliens. "Are you native to this star system? How long have your people been space-faring? What kind of propulsion system do you use?" The aliens looked back and forth between the humans and each other. They seemed very confused. Finally, one of them spoke. "Are you not afraid?" it asked. The humans looked at each other and then back at the aliens. "Should we be?" Tom asked. "You seem nice enough." Admiral had conquered 47 different worlds in his long career. He had seen fear in 1,000 different forms. He had watched entire armies fall to their knees just from seeing his ship arrive. He had made kings and presidents beg for mercy with nothing but a stern look. But these 4 small creatures were not behaving correctly at all. The Admiral stood 8 feet tall, with golden metal plates covering his insect-like body. His 4 arms ended in sharp claws that could cut through steel. Red lights glowed in his dark eyes. When he spoke, his voice was deep and threatening. "I am Admiral of the 3rd Hegemony," he announced. "You are now prisoners of the great empire." The human female named Maria nodded politely. "Nice to meet you, Admiral," she said. "That's a really impressive uniform. Is that real gold?" The Admiral's head twitched. In 10,000 years of galactic conquest, no prisoner had ever complimented his uniform. "You will be taken to holding cells," he said, trying to get back on track. "There you will await processing." "Processing?" asked the human male called James. He was still writing things on his small tablet. "What kind of processing? Is that like paperwork? We have lots of paperwork on Earth too." The Admiral made a hissing sound. Processing was when prisoners were broken mentally. They were shown the power of the Empire until their minds cracked. Then they begged to serve their new masters. "Follow me," the Admiral said. He turned and walked toward the exit. The humans followed him, but not like prisoners. They looked around at everything with great interest. The one called James kept stopping to examine the walls and take pictures. "Excuse me," James said to one of the guards, "but are these walls grown or built? The pattern looks biological, but the material seems artificial." The guard, whose name was, had never been asked a question by a prisoner before. He was not sure what to do. "They are grown," he said carefully, "from crystal farms." "Crystal farms," James wrote something on his tablet. "That's amazing. How do you control the growth pattern?" Found himself explaining crystal farming techniques to a prisoner. This had never happened before in his 200 years of military service. They reached the holding area, which was designed to break the spirits of prisoners. The walls showed pictures of the Empire's great victories. Conquered worlds burned on the screens. Defeated enemies begged for mercy. The humans looked at the pictures with interest. "Wow," said Tom, "your empire is really big. How do you manage to coordinate everything across so many star systems? The communication delays alone must be nightmare." Lisa was examining the cell doors. "These are really well made," she said. "Is this some kind of force field technology? We've been trying to figure that out for years." She reached out to touch the energy barrier that served as a door. "Don't touch that," shouted a guard. "It will shock you." "Oh, thanks for the warning," Lisa said, but then she paused. "Actually, what kind of shock? Is it electrical or something else? What's the voltage?" The guard stared at her. "You want to know about the voltage?" "Well, yes," Lisa said. "I'm an engineer. This is really interesting technology." Admiral was getting a headache. This was not how processing was supposed to work. The humans were supposed to be terrified. They were supposed to cry and beg and break down mentally. Instead, they were asking technical questions and making polite conversation. The Admiral decided to try a different approach. He activated the fear projector, a device that created terrible illusions in the minds of prisoners. It showed them their worst fears until they went insane. The humans stood quietly for a moment, eyes closed as the device worked. Then Maria opened her eyes. "That was weird," she said. "I just saw my old math teacher, Mrs. I haven't thought about her in years. She was always giving pop quizzes." Tom laughed. "I saw my first job interview. I was so nervous I spilled coffee on myself." James was writing on his tablet again. "Fascinating. Some kind of telepathic fear response system. How does it access memory centers in the brain?" The Admiral turned off the fear projector. It was designed to drive people insane with terror. These humans were treating it like an interesting magic trick. "You are not afraid," the Admiral said. It was not a question. "Should we be?" Maria asked. "You haven't actually hurt us or anything. You've been quite polite, really." "We are the Empire," the Admiral shouted. "We have destroyed countless civilizations. We rule half the galaxy." "That must be a lot of work," Tom said sympathetically. "Do you ever get time off? Everyone needs vacation time." The Admiral's gold plates were starting to change color. This meant he was very upset or confused. "Sir," Guard said quietly, "perhaps we should contact the Grand Hierarch." The Grand Hierarch was the most feared being in the Empire. He was so terrible that his name was whispered in the darkest corners of the galaxy. He had personally destroyed entire solar systems just to make a point. "Yes," the Admiral said, "bring. If anyone can break these creatures, he can." While they waited for the Grand Hierarch to arrive, something very strange happened. The humans started talking to the guards, not pleading or begging, just talking. Lisa explained to one guard how the force field doors could be made more efficient. Tom shared pictures of his children with another guard, explaining how human families worked. James interviewed a third guard about culture and history. Maria struck up a conversation with Admiral himself. "So how did you become an admiral?" she asked. "Is there like a military academy, or do you work your way up?" The Admiral found himself explaining the military structure. No one had ever asked him about his career before. All his prisoners usually did was scream. When the Grand Hierarch finally arrived, he found something unprecedented in 10,000 years of Empire history. The guards were sitting in a circle with the prisoners, listening to Tom explain something called baseball. "It's really simple," Tom was saying. "You hit the ball with the bat, then run around the bases. The other team tries to catch the ball and tag you out." "But why do you run in a circle?" asked Guard. "Would it not be more efficient to run in a straight line?" "Well, yes, but then it wouldn't be as much fun," Tom said. The Grand Hierarch stood in the doorway, his massive form blocking out the light. He was 12 feet tall and covered in black armor that seemed to absorb light. His 6 eyes glowed like red stars. Everyone turned to look at him. "Hello," Maria said brightly. "You must be the boss. I'm Maria Santos. Would you like some coffee? We have a little coffee maker on our ship." The Grand Hierarch, destroyer of worlds and nightmare of countless civilizations, was offered coffee by a prisoner. For the first time in his very long life, he had no idea what to say. Grand Hierarch stared at the coffee cup in his massive clawed hand. In 10,000 years of existence, no one had ever offered him a beverage. The small human female had made it in a tiny machine and served it in a paper cup with little flowers on it. "It's a little bitter," Maria had said apologetically, "but it helps you wake up in the morning." The Grand Hierarch tasted it carefully. It was actually quite good. This was not going according to plan. "These creatures are clearly dangerous," he told Admiral later in private. "They show no fear, no respect for our power. They must be tested." The Admiral nodded eagerly. "What kind of test, my lord?" "Send them to the Red Nebula," the Grand Hierarch said. "Order them to mine asteroids there. The radiation will kill them within hours." The Red Nebula was where the Empire sent prisoners who needed to die slowly. The radiation was so strong that it could melt metal. No species had ever survived more than a day there. Admiral smiled with all 4 of his mouths. "An excellent plan, my lord." The next morning, the humans were brought to a different ship. It was smaller and older, the kind used for dangerous mining work. The captain was a veteran named who had seen many species die in the Red Nebula. "You are ordered to mine asteroids in the Red Nebula," announced. "You will collect rare metals for the Empire." "Sounds good to us," Maria said. "We're geologists anyway. Mining is what we do." Was confused. Most prisoners begged for mercy when given this assignment. "Do you understand where you are going?" he asked. "The Red Nebula is death. The radiation will cook you alive." Lisa looked interested. "What kind of radiation? Gamma rays, X-rays? Do you have any measurements?" "All kinds of radiation," said. "More than any creature can survive." Lisa said. "We'll need to build some shielding then. Do you have any spare metal plates on this ship?" The journey to the Red Nebula took 3 days. During that time, the humans did something no other species had ever done. They prepared. Lisa and James worked together to build radiation shields from spare ship parts. They welded metal plates together and created protective suits. Tom helped by reorganizing the mining equipment to make it more efficient. Maria spent her time talking to the ship's crew, learning about the different types of asteroids they would find. "The blue ones have rare metals inside," explained a guard named Kay. "But they are the most radioactive." "Good to know," Maria said, making notes. "What about the red ones?" By the time they reached the Red Nebula, the humans had turned the cargo bay into a workshop. They had built protective gear, organized the mining tools, and even created a communication system so they could work as a team. Captain watched in amazement as they prepared for work that should have terrified them. "Are they insane?" he asked his first officer. "I don't know," the first officer replied, "but they seem very confident." The Red Nebula looked like its name suggested. It was a huge cloud of red gas and dust, filled with asteroids that glowed like hot coals. Radiation readings were off the charts. Just looking at it through the ship's windows made most crew members feel sick. The humans looked out at it and smiled. "Beautiful," James said. "Look at the way the radiation interacts with the gas particles. The color patterns are amazing." "The asteroids are much bigger than we thought," Tom observed. "This should be good for mining." They put on their homemade radiation suits and climbed into small mining ships. Each ship was designed for one person, but the humans had modified them with their communication system and better tools. As soon as they started working, something unexpected happened. They began to sing. Tom started it, humming an old Earth song while he drilled into his first asteroid. Soon Maria joined in, then James and Lisa. Their voices came through the communication system, echoing through the red nebula. Working on the railroad, all the livelong day. The song helped them work together. When Tom sang about finding a good deposit, Lisa would fly over to help. When Maria sang about her drill getting stuck, James would bring better tools. Captain listened to their singing in disbelief. They're happy, he reported to Admiral. The radiation levels are enough to kill in minutes and they're singing work songs. That's impossible, the Admiral replied over the radio. I'm sending you the video feed, said. On his screen, Admiral watched the 4 humans dancing as they worked. Their radiation suits were crude but effective. They moved from asteroid to asteroid like they were at a party, not a death sentence. Even worse, they were incredibly good at mining. How much ore have they collected? The Admiral asked weakly. In 6 hours, they've extracted more rare metals than our best teams collect in a week, said. And they've organized it all into neat piles by type and quality. The humans had turned the deadly red nebula into the most efficient mining operation in Empire history. But they weren't done yet. On the second day, Lisa discovered that she could use the radiation itself to power better mining tools. She built a device that absorbed radiation and converted it into energy. It's like having a nuclear reactor right here in space, she explained excitedly to James. We can power much bigger equipment now. Tom used the extra power to build mining robots, small machines that could work even deeper in the radiation field. James everything they found, creating detailed maps of the nebula that were better than anything the Empire had. Maria organized it all, making sure everyone worked safely and efficiently. By the end of the week, they had strip-mined 3 entire asteroids and built a small processing plant inside the nebula itself. They've named the asteroids, Captain reported to his superiors. The big blue one is called Lucky Strike. The red one is Goldilocks. They have a betting pool going on which team can mine faster. Teams, Admiral asked. They split into 2 groups, said. Tom and Lisa versus Maria and James. They keep score and give each other prizes. Yesterday, the winners got extra coffee rations. Extra coffee rations, the Admiral repeated numbly. They requested coffee as part of their supplies, explained. Said it was essential for good work. They also asked for music players and some kind of food called sandwiches. The Grand Hierarch himself came to see the impossible sight. The Red Nebula, the Empire's most deadly punishment, had become a happy workplace where humans sang songs and had friendly competitions. This is getting out of hand, he told Admiral. We need to try something different. What do you suggest, my lord? The Grand Hierarch thought for a long moment. Send them to pacify the rebellion on Prime. If the radiation couldn't break them, perhaps the warriors of Can. Prime was a savage world of warrior poets who communicated through ritual combat. Every species the Empire had sent there had either died horribly or run away in terror. An excellent plan, the Admiral said. No one has ever survived the warriors of. But as he watched the humans loading their mining ships with more ore than the Empire usually collected in a year, Admiral was starting to have doubts. These strange creatures had just turned certain death into a productive sing-along. What would they do on a world full of warrior poets? Dr. Sarah had never expected to become a spiritual leader, especially not on an alien world full of giant lizard people who settled arguments by hitting each other with swords. The planet Prime was supposed to be the humans' death sentence. The warriors were 8 feet tall, covered in scales, and spoke only through ritual combat. For 2,000 years, they had been rebelling against the Empire. Every species sent to stop them had either died or fled in terror. But Sarah was an anthropologist. When she met the warriors, she didn't see terrifying monsters. She saw a fascinating culture. Their combat rituals are actually a form of poetry, she explained to Maria through their radio. Each sword movement represents a different emotion or idea. They're not just fighting, they're having deep philosophical discussions. The leader, a massive warrior named OK the Blade Singer, had challenged the humans to single combat when they landed. This was traditional. All enemies had to prove themselves worthy before they could speak. Tom had stepped forward to accept the challenge, but instead of drawing a weapon, he had bowed politely. "I'm honored by your challenge," he said through Sarah's translation device, "but I don't know your combat poetry. Could you teach me?" OK had been so surprised that he dropped his sword. No one had ever asked to learn combat poetry before. Enemies were supposed to fight badly and die quickly. They weren't supposed to show interest in culture. Within 3 days, Sarah had learned enough of their language to have simple conversations. She discovered that the rebellion wasn't really about fighting the Empire. It was about preserving their poetry and philosophy. "The Empire wants to make us work in factories," OK explained through Sarah's translation. "They say our combat poetry is a waste of time, but it is who we are." Sarah nodded sympathetically. "On my world, we have a saying, you can kill a person but you can't kill an idea." She thought for a moment, then composed something in combat speak. It was clumsy, but the meaning was clear. "Blade sings truth, eternal empire, fears the song poetry lives forever." The warriors stared at her. Then OK began to laugh, a deep rumbling sound like thunder. "You speak our soul language," he said, "badly but with true heart." Within a week, the humans had become honorary members of the tribe. Tom learned basic sword work. James studied their philosophy. Lisa helped them improve their weapons technology. Maria organized peace talks between the local imperial governor. The peace talks were supposed to be a formal ceremony with lots of protocol and rules, but Maria had organized them like a potluck dinner. Everyone brought food and sat in a big circle. "The thing is," Maria explained to Governor N, "they don't want to destroy anything. They just want to keep their culture alive. Why can't they have factory jobs during the day and do poetry fights at night?" Governor N was a small, nervous creature who had never sat on the ground before. He kept looking around at the warriors, who were sharing their combat poetry with the humans. "This is irregular," he said. "Maybe," Maria said, passing him a sandwich, "but it's working. Look how happy everyone is." The peace talks ended with an agreement. They would work in the factories, but only part-time. The rest of their time was for poetry and culture. In exchange, they would stop rebelling against the Empire. But when Governor N reported back to his superiors, he mentioned something that made them very worried. The humans suggested that perhaps other worlds would like similar arrangements, he said. They asked why the Empire doesn't just ask people what they want, instead of forcing them to do things. This news reached Emperor the Eternal within hours. The Emperor had ruled for 3,000 years through fear and force. The idea of asking people what they wanted was completely alien to him. "What do you mean, ask them what they want?" he demanded of his advisors. "The humans seem to believe that people should have a say in their own government," explained Grand Vizier. "They call it democracy." "Democracy," the Emperor's 6 eyes glowed dangerously. "Explain this concept." "According to our reports, it means people vote for their leaders. Everyone gets to choose who rules them." Emperor was quiet for a long time. Then he started laughing. It was not a happy laugh. "These humans are more dangerous than we thought," he said. "They're spreading ideas." But the ideas were already spreading. Word of the humans had reached every corner of the Empire. Species that had been oppressed for thousands of years were starting to ask uncomfortable questions. On the mining world the workers heard about the humans singing while they worked. They started wondering why work had to be miserable. If humans could enjoy mining in a deadly radiation field, why couldn't they enjoy mining regular asteroids? The workers started singing their own songs while they worked. Productivity went up. Accidents went down. The workers were happier. The local governor tried to stop the singing, but the workers refused. Why? They asked. We're doing better work than before. What's wrong with being happy? The governor couldn't answer that question. On the farming world of Axe, the farmers heard about the peace talks on Prime. They started wondering why they had to give all their food to the Empire while their own people went hungry. The humans asked people what they wanted, the farmers said to each other. Why doesn't anyone ask us what we want? Soon, farming communities all over Axe were having their own meetings. They made lists of things they wanted to change. They elected representatives to speak for them. When the imperial tax collectors arrived, they found organized farmers with reasonable demands instead of frightened peasants. On the research station of Ada, the scientists heard about the humans' curiosity and enthusiasm for learning. They started wondering why their research had to be secret and controlled by the military. The humans share their discoveries with everyone, the scientists said. They think knowledge belongs to everyone. The scientists on Ada started sharing their research with other worlds. They published papers that anyone could read. They held conferences where beings from different species could learn from each other. Emperor watched his empire beginning to fall apart, not from rebellion or warfare, but from ideas. Dangerous ideas about happiness and freedom and choice. The humans must be stopped, he declared, immediately. But stopping them was easier said than done. The humans were now popular heroes throughout the empire. The story of their adventures had spread to every world. Children on 100 different planets played games where they pretended to be the brave humans who weren't afraid of anything. When the Emperor ordered the humans to be executed, something unprecedented happened. Guard captain, who had been assigned to kill them, hesitated. The humans had been in imperial custody for 3 weeks now. During that time, they had turned their prison into a small community. They had elected Tom as mayor, created a postal system for sending messages between cells, and started a weekly newspaper called the Galactic Gazette. They had also convinced their guards to join their weekly poker games. Had learned more about the humans than he had about any prisoners before. He knew that Maria had a sister who was a teacher. Tom had twin daughters who played something called soccer. James was writing a book about xenobiology. Lisa was engaged to marry someone named Carlos. They were people, not just enemies. They had families and dreams and hopes. For the first time in his 200 years of military service, Captain questioned his orders. "Sir," he said to Admiral, "perhaps we should consider alternatives to execution." The Admiral stared at him. "Alternatives?" "The humans have caused no actual harm," said carefully. "They've actually improved productivity and morale everywhere they've been assigned. Perhaps they could be released." Admiral realized that even his own soldiers were being infected by human ideas. The Empire was in serious trouble. Emperor the Eternal stood on the bridge of his massive dreadnought, watching his empire fall apart through the windows. Ships were defecting from the Imperial Navy every hour. Entire star systems were declaring independence, and it was all because of 4 small creatures who had accidentally wandered into his territory 3 months ago. "How many worlds have rebelled today?" he asked his Grand Admiral. 47, Your Majesty," the Admiral replied nervously, "and the Third Fleet has joined them." The Emperor's 6 eyes burned with rage. The Third Fleet had been the pride of his navy. Now they were flying around with banners that said, "Democracy for everyone" and "Workers of the Galaxy, unite." "And the humans?" the Emperor asked. "Where are they now?" "Still in holding cell block 7, Your Majesty. They started a book club last week. Guards from 3 different ships are attending." The Emperor decided to see these creatures for himself. How could 4 small beings destroy an empire that had lasted 10,000 years? He found the humans exactly where he expected them to be, but nothing was as he had imagined. The holding area had been completely transformed. The cells were still there, but they had been turned into different rooms. One was a library, one was a workshop, one was a kitchen where the guards took turns cooking meals from different worlds. The humans were in the middle of what they called a town hall meeting. All the guards were there, sitting in a circle, discussing how to improve working conditions on the ship. "I think everyone should get at least 8 hours of sleep," Maria was saying. "Nobody works well when they're tired." "But what about the night shift?" asked Captain. "Someone has to watch the prisoners." "Do you really need to watch us?" Tom asked. "We're not going anywhere. Our ship is broken, remember." "Besides," added Lisa, "if you trust people, they usually act trustworthy. It's amazing how that works." Emperor stood in the doorway, his massive armored form blocking out the light. Everyone turned to look at him. The guards immediately stood up and saluted, but the humans just smiled and waved. "You must be the Emperor," Maria said cheerfully. "We've heard a lot about you. Would you like to join our meeting? We're discussing workplace democracy." The Emperor stared at her. He was the most powerful being in half the galaxy. He commanded fleets that could destroy solar systems. He had personally conquered 1,000 worlds. And this small creature was inviting him to a committee meeting. "You," he said in his deepest, most threatening voice, "are destroying my empire." "Are we?" James asked, looking genuinely confused. "We're just trying to be helpful. Did we do something wrong?" "You have filled my subjects with dangerous ideas," the Emperor said. "Ideas about freedom and choice and happiness." "Well," Maria said thoughtfully, "are those bad ideas? Most people seem to like being free and happy." "Freedom leads to chaos," the Emperor roared. "Choice leads to confusion. People need strong leadership." "Maybe," Tom said, "but they should get to choose their leaders. That's kind of the whole point of democracy." The Emperor felt his rage building. These creatures didn't understand power at all. They thought the galaxy could be run like one of their little meetings. "I will show you the cost of your ideas," he said. "I will destroy every rebel fleet. I will crush every democratic movement. I will restore order to my empire." "Your Majesty," Captain said quietly, "the crew has voted. We're not going to fight the rebels." The Emperor turned to stare at his own officer. "What?" "We took a vote," explained. "It was Tom's idea, very efficient way to make decisions. We voted not to attack other Imperial ships." "You cannot vote on military orders," the Emperor shouted. "Why not?" Lisa asked. "If everyone agrees, things work much better. Look how well it's worked here." The Emperor looked around the transformed holding area. The guards were relaxed and happy. The work areas were clean and organized. Everything ran smoothly and efficiently. It was nothing like the fear-based discipline he had enforced for 3,000 years, but it worked better than anything he had ever seen. "This is mutiny," he said, but his voice sounded tired rather than angry. "This is democracy," Maria corrected gently, "and honestly, it seems to be working pretty well." Over the next few days, the Emperor watched his vast navy make the same choice as his crew. Ship after ship held votes and decided to stop fighting. Admiral after admiral switched sides or resigned. The rebellion wasn't violent. It was polite and organized. The rebels sent formal letters explaining their decisions. They offered fair terms for surrender. They even invited Imperial forces to join them. It was the most frustrating revolution in galactic history. Meanwhile, Lisa had finally fixed their ship's FTL drive. "I think I figured out what went wrong," she announced. "The quantum flux inhibitor was calibrated incorrectly. Should be easy to fix now that I understand how it works." "Does that mean we can go home?" Tom asked. "Yep," Lisa said proudly. Just give me a few more hours to finish the repairs. The humans began packing their things. They had accumulated quite a lot during their stay: books, souvenirs, pictures, and new friends. Emperor found himself standing in their cell, watching them pack. "You're really leaving?" he asked. "Well, yes," Maria said. "We should get back to Earth. Our research department is probably wondering where we went." "But what about the Empire?" Maria looked confused. "What about it? That's your government, not ours. You'll figure something out." The Emperor realized that the humans had never intended to destroy his empire. They had just been themselves, and their very existence had shown everyone that there was a better way to live. "What should I do?" he asked quietly. "Maybe ask people what they want," Tom suggested. "Then try to give it to them. It's worked pretty well for us on Earth." "But I don't know how to do that," the Emperor admitted. "It's not that hard," Maria said kindly. "Start small, ask your crew what would make them happy, listen to their answers, then try some of their ideas." Captain stepped forward. "Your Majesty, if I may, the crew has some suggestions." For the first time in 3,000 years, Emperor listened to what his subjects wanted. The next day, the humans loaded their belongings into their repaired ship. Half the Imperial Navy came to see them off. The other half was busy organizing democratic elections on their home worlds. "Thanks for everything," Maria called over the radio as the Wanderer prepared to leave. "It was nice meeting all of you." "Will you ever come back?" asked Captain. "Maybe someday," Tom said, "if we're ever in the neighborhood again." "Feel free to visit Earth if you want," James added. "Just give us some advance warning so we can prepare a proper welcome." The humans activated their FTL drive and disappeared into space, leaving behind a galaxy that was quietly transforming itself. 1 year later, the Galactic Empire had become the Galactic Democratic Federation. Emperor was now president, elected by popular vote. He still had no idea how to run a democracy, but he was learning. Captain had become the Federation's first minister of workplace happiness, a job that didn't exist before the humans arrived. They had established the first poetry academy. Species from across the galaxy came to learn their combat poetry techniques. And on Earth, Maria Santos was back to teaching community college astronomy. She had no idea that her name was spoken with reverence on 1,000 different worlds, or that children across the galaxy played games pretending to be the unshakable ones. When the first alien ambassadors arrived at Earth, they expected to find a world of legendary heroes. Instead, they found Maria grading papers and complaining about the coffee in the faculty lounge. "You're really them?" the ambassador asked. "The ones who broke the empire?" "We didn't break anything," Maria said, confused. "We were just trying to be polite." The ambassador stared at her for a long moment, then began to laugh. It was the same laugh that OK the Blade Singer had made when Sarah first spoke combat poetry. The laugh of someone who finally understood what made humans special. They weren't fearless because they were brave. They were fearless because they were kind. And sometimes, kindness was the most revolutionary force in the universe.